5 News at 7:45. Welcome back. Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, today stood in the dock of the Old Bailey and denied stealing hundreds of her personal belongings after her death. Hordes of reporters and photographers were gathered at the court, but he arrived and left saying nothing. 5's Ben Scotchbrook reports.
He was Diana's butler, her confidant and famously her rock. Today, against a backdrop of the world's media, Paul Burrell arrived at the Old Bailey accused of stealing from her. Inside the building, in court number 1, Mr. Burrell spoke only to say yes to his name, and then, along with the rest of us, sat listening to extensive legal discussion as to when his trial should start. Now, the law prevents me from telling you the details of that discussion, except to say that it included issues such as witness availability. After around 40 minutes or so, it was decided that the trial should start on the 14th of October. That's, of course, after the Queen's Golden Jubilee celebrations. 43-year-old Mr. Burrell is accused of taking more than 300 items from his former employer, but he denies stealing from the Princess of Wales or from the Prince of Wales or their son Prince William. Items on the prosecution's list range from personal letters and CDs to hats and jewellery. Also in court today, Harold Brown, butler to Princess Margaret. He will deny stealing from the Princess of Wales when, in December, he'll be tried together with Jan Havlik, a jeweller who denies 3 charges of handling stolen goods. Like them, Mr. Burrell left court today with a long wait before the trial begins. Until then, prosecution and defence lawyers will be deciding just who will give evidence and how. Ben Scotchbrook at the Old Bailey, 5 News.
18 years ago, it was a scandal that rocked the Tory government. Cecil Parkinson, a personal favourite of the then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, was forced to resign as Trade and Industry Secretary when it emerged his long-term mistress, Sarah Keyes, was pregnant with his child. He took out a strict injunction, supposedly to protect baby Flora, banning any publicity about her. But now Flora, who suffers from a form of autism, is 18. She's free to speak for herself and is eager to do so. Louisa Baldini reports.
You, from us, with all our love, and congratulations on your 18th birthday. Happy birthday, and of course, happy Christmas too.
Turning 18, Flora got dozens of cards, but the only one she really wanted never arrived. She was hoping her father, Cecil Parkinson, would have thought of her on her special day. But from the moment she was born in 1983, he's never once made contact. He'd ended his affair with her mother, Sarah, and shunned both of them. Lord Parkinson, now 70, had to resign, and the gagging order he imposed, supposedly to protect Flora, meant she and Sarah couldn't speak out against him. Flora has spent the past 18 years struggling with Asperger's syndrome and looking for an institute able to help her cope. But more importantly, she's been struggling with the knowledge her dad didn't want her. Turning 18 has unlocked the door to a whole new world, a past of secrets firmly behind her, but her mother says she's apprehensive.
She wants to overcome her problems, she wants to make further progress, but she's very afraid of not being understood, not being helped. She's afraid of growing up.
But Flora is making the most for herself, a life without a father or his guidance.
People with learning difficulties can drive. Who've got my kind of problem can drive.
At least, though, she can now speak out about the father she's never met. Louisa Baldini, 5 News.
Now it's time for today's Essential Sports Roundup with Lee.
Tonight, the FA's fight to drag football out of the gutter after the shame at Stamford Bridge. And caught between a rock and a soft place, a new nightmare in the Paris-Dakar Rally. Good evening. The Football Association are trying to clean up the name of their sport at the moment. They're examining events in the Worthington Cup semi-final between Chelsea and Tottenham at Stamford Bridge last night. Chelsea's 2-1 first leg victory over Tottenham was marred as opposing strikers Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Tottenham's Les Ferdinand both appeared to be struck by missiles thrown from the crowd. The incidents came just 3 days after severe crowd trouble at the FA Cup tie between Cardiff and Leeds. Here's Andy Richardson.
The ugly scenes began just after Les Ferdinand had scored Tottenham's equaliser against Chelsea. The atmosphere at Stamford Bridge was already red hot and it threatened to boil over when a bottle was thrown at celebrating Spurs players. Ferdinand unaware at just how close he was to being hit.
I tell you what, it's frightening as a player because I'm thinking, I got a lot of calls yesterday after the game saying, cool, he was lucky with that bottle just missing, and I'm thinking, hang on, I'm playing a game, I've just scored a goal, and I could have been injured by someone throwing a bottle at me. Unfortunately, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank went up the other end and had to come off, and he got coins and stuff thrown at him. And you think about it afterwards, and you think, cool, one coin going in the wrong place could have blinded him,
Hasselbank appeared to be pelted while he was being treated for an injury in front of Spurs fans. The Football Association have already begun their own investigation, and both clubs have promised to take a tough line with any fans involved. Last night's scenes follow in the wake of the disorder at Cardiff last weekend. The FA will now want to know whether clubs can do anything more to control their fans. Andy Richardson, 5 News.
Meanwhile, there'll be a heavy police presence for tonight's match in Division 1 of the Nationwide League. Millwall are playing promotion rivals Birmingham at the New Den. England rugby international Austin Healey has been banned for 3 weeks by the game's disciplinary panel after being found guilty of kicking an opponent in Leicester's match against Sale last month. The ban means Healey will miss Leicester's Heineken Cup clash against Llanelli at the weekend, but he will be available in time for England's first Six Nations game of the season against Scotland on February the 2nd. Gloucester's French hooker Olivier Azam was given an 8-week ban, and Newcastle's Tongan star Epitione a 3-week ban after their bust-up in a Premiership game at Kingsholm. England's cricketers have flown to India today for their one-day series against India. Captain Nasser Hussain is taking a relatively inexperienced squad to the subcontinent, but 2 key men are travelling. Fast bowlers Andy Caddick and Darren Gough are back for this trip. Gough declared himself unavailable for the pre-Christmas Test series in India, while Caddick opted to stay at home because of safety concerns. England assistant manager Todd Grip is refusing to take it easy despite spending a night in hospital with a heart scare. The 62-year-old workaholic has returned to work today, and though he won't spy for England at the African Nations Cup, he isn't taking time off. Grip's zest for work and life is legendary. On a recent trip back home in Sweden, he was spotted dancing energetically to Run DMC's classic hit Walk This Way. Someone just starting out on a sporting career is Korean golf prodigy Jae An. Today, the 13-year-old Korean schoolboy made history by becoming the youngest competitor in a professional golf tournament, and he shot a commendable level par opening round of 71 in the New Zealand Open, which was only 1 shot worse than his hero Tiger Woods. That was in Wellington. Greg Rosetsky is also in New Zealand and has enjoyed a great day in Auckland, where he beat Wimbledon champion Goran Ivanisevic for the first time. Rosetsky overcame the loss of the second set to love to end his sequence of 9 defeats against Ivanisevic, which included a match at Wimbledon last year. Rosetsky is building up to the first Grand Slam of the year, the Australian Open, which starts on Monday. Finally, we've been following events in the Paris-Dakar Rally, where there have been some fascinating scenes across the Sahara Desert. Now, this is what's been happening in the latest stage in Mauritania. Hiroshi Musaoka of Japan is leading the overall standings after making excellent progress through the desolate landscape of Western Africa. He did encounter one bad patch here in a rocky sand trap, which threatened to eat into his big lead, but Musaoka managed to get back on course and extend his advantage. The closest challenger is the only woman to have ever won the race, German Jutta Kleinschmidt, who demonstrated how to handle a steep gradient on the unforgiving sand. And that's how the sport's looking. Hand you back to Charlie.
Thank you very much, Lee. Now it's time for our regular look at the day's winners and losers. It's a bad day for Corrie star Tracy Shaw. It's been reported the actress had a blazing row with her husband on a plane on the way back from the Caribbean. Tracy's blaming it all on the frustration of giving up smoking for the new year. And it's been a bad day for Gap. Once known as the king of the high street, the clothes store is now facing a difficult winter, with worldwide sales down by 24%. But it's a happy day for reformed Hollywood bad boy Charlie Sheen. He's asked Bond girl Denise Richards to marry him, and she said yes. Just time for a reminder of tonight's main headlines. There's been more violence in North Belfast today, despite the Holy Cross Catholic Girls' School staying closed. A neighbouring Catholic school was attacked, and boys from a Protestant school were brought home in police armoured cars for their own safety. Government Minister Peter Hain has admitted that Britain's rail network is the worst in Europe. comes as the latest figures show an increase in cancellations and delays, and in the middle of industrial strife for several train operators. And Princess Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, has denied stealing hundreds of personal items belonging to her in a hearing at the Old Bailey. His trial date has been set for October. Well, that's it for now. We've got updates throughout the evening. The next one is at 9 o'clock. For now, though, from everyone here, bye-bye.